Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at Onward and Upward, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Association Insights podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Henning. Today we're heading to the Blue Ridge Mountains to explore a bold destination strategy that's redefining how associations think about host cities. I'm thrilled to be joined by Ed Silver, Vice President of Business Development at Explore Asheville, who brings over 25 years of experience in the travel and hospitality industry to this role. From rethinking how DMOs partner with associations to help rebuild a region after a devastating hurricane, Ed's work is a case study in resilience, collaboration, and smart event strategy. We'll explore how Asheville is tailoring its offerings for mission-driven meetings and why choosing the right destination partner is more important than ever. So welcome, Ed.
Thank you, Meghan. It's great to be here and great to see you.
Yes, it's great. So for full disclosure, Ed was my boss many years ago. One was a fantastic boss, and I'm super excited to be here talking to him. So Ed, congratulations on your new role as VP of Business Development for Explore Asheville.
Thanks.
You've had a great career in hospitality and destination marketing that I know, but so I want you to tell people what inspired you to take on this opportunity and what drew you to Asheville in particular.
Yeah, so a few things just kind of combined to make this a great fit for me, Meghan. First off, kind of post-pandemic, theoretically, everything had gone remote. I was living up in Boston and was in a role with a company that primarily works for American Express Travel. And as you know, I'm primarily a travel technology executive, kind of product and technology executive. I've worked for companies like American Express Travel. I've worked with Expedia, Orbitz, of course, have been an entrepreneur, founding lodging.com. I worked with you at GBTA, which was, an amazing time, of life. But primarily I'm technology and product. Everything went remote. We were living up in Boston. And I had moved the family a few times for my career, and my beautiful wife and family raised their hand and said, can we choose where we go next? And I said, sure, everything's remote, let's just go wherever you want. Nicole's family lives down here. They had settled in Asheville 30 years prior, and we, would come here for vacations and visit, and we loved it. And she said, can we, move near family? We had 2 young kids. And so three and a half years ago, we moved here to Asheville and just absolutely fell in love. So that's how we got to Asheville. As for this role, which I've only been in for about 2 months, following Helene, I was working on consulting. I was a consultant. We were working on some fantastic projects, but I just felt like I needed to do something that would connect me more to the community. I spent my entire life building my own businesses, but also helping people to really grow shareholder value in their companies. And that has been great. I love the full contact sport of, just building businesses and fighting for every dollar of shareholder value. But I thought, is there a different way in which I can apply that skill for my local community? And I met with Vic Isley, our CEO, a couple of times, and just the idea of investing my time and energy where I would normally be focused on shareholder value in building kind of stakeholder value, building out economic development for my neighbors, my community, and the area, just really felt like something I could do and be good at. And so that's why I decided to join. It was just a different way of applying my skills, staying in travel, but working, to help grow Asheville. And so that's what brought me here.
That's great. I mean, and what a beautiful part of the world. Such a great a great place. So many of our listeners are evaluating future meeting locations. From your perspective, what makes a destination partner like Explore Asheville more than just a venue? And how can DMOs contribute to an event's success?
Yeah, look, and again, I'm new to the DMO space, but I'm going to tell you what I've learned, in the last 2 months, and of course, a couple of months of research, before taking the role to really understand, what has been the transformation of what traditionally I understood as CVBs and tourism bureaus into DMOs. Look, DMOs just aren't really vendors anymore. They're really value partners. We're embedded in the planner process from start to finish. It's not, for us, it's just not about site selection. It's about bringing our knowledge of what makes Asheville special and matching that up against, what the associations or the event planners' needs are. We work and co-design the attendee experience. We make sure that what the planner is looking for matches the spirit and kind of creative energy of what Asheville has to offer. And that could mean connecting them with people in the area, getting them into restaurants that are Michelin star rated, which, by the way, we have many of those here in the area, getting them connected to outdoor venues and settings to make the mountain kind of creative energy come through. So, a DMO's job is to really just make sure that everyone leaves here with new ideas, new connections, a story about Asheville that matches the creative spirit of what that association is looking, to build as part of their event.
I feel like that's really changed since I was in the association world, because it used to just be, where could we have it, and not this whole experience, just as you said, because it was just like, well, you could be in this, hotel or this meeting space, and that's kind of where it ended. So it's nice to know, I would think, from a planning point of view, as the association, that this is a much easier, and better way to do it. So this is kind of exciting that this has evolved into that.
Yeah, look, when you and I, together ran an association at GBTA, we worked with CVBs and DMOs, of all shapes and sizes, planning large conventions, smaller conferences, chapter events, committee events. And look, depending on who we were working with, you would get a list of venues, you might get a list of hotels, and they would try to match you up. That's not what DMOs do anymore. That's not what this DMO does, not in any way, shape, or form. We really, kind of co-create the event with you. And if you leverage the best of what we have to offer, your event will shine all the more because you've done that.
Which is great. And speaking of shining, so for planners who may not be familiar with Asheville, what makes it stand out as a good host city? And are there particular types of events or association gatherings that tend to really thrive there?
Yeah, look, Asheville is unique. It's probably not the perfect fit for everyone who is looking to plan an event. We kind of think about it as kind of big inspiration in the right size destination. Asheville's got, just under 10,000 guest rooms with 27 direct flights. It's very drivable. It has a walkable downtown. It feels really personal here. So if you're looking for that personal, creative energy, Asheville is a great, place to put your meeting. We talk about finding the Goldilocks size events, the Goldilocks type of events that fit here. Look, we thrive with purpose-driven meetings, sustainability, wellness, outdoor creative energy, mission-based associations. Those are all perfect fits for this kind of mountain town and the energy that we bring. Groups of 100 to 400 are probably our sweet spot, but we also can, size up citywide to, over 1,000 if needed. And we do support, groups up and above that size, especially for sporting events, which we have many of and have a great thriving sporting event community, which I could tell you more about if we, keep talking. I have some real news to share. But look, this is a growing a growing sporting community, a growing area for these types of events. And look, if you're looking for that kind of deeply resonant creative energy, this is a great place to kind of, look and come visit.
So what type of sporting events? Because when I'm thinking sporting events there, I'm thinking hiking, right? Because there's so much to hike there.
Yeah. So, I mean, from our relationship with the Southern Conference, SoCon, we've got basketball here for the Southern Conference, volleyball, more SoCon events coming soon. Just this morning, we announced the PGA Tour is coming here in
Nice.
September. Yeah, so in concert with the Biltmore and the PGA Tour and Explore Asheville, the fall FedEx Tour will come here beginning in September of next year. So sporting events of all sizes. I mean, Megan, I took a tour of something called Taylor's Wave, where we're building in Buncombe County, which is here just, kind of surrounding county of Asheville. We're building a world-class rapid that will attract world-class kayaking and rafting.
Wow.
So we're planning on having those types of events. So you name it, this is a real sporting, area. And we're thrilled to, have the tour coming. And that's a real recognition of, Asheville here and what types of events we can support on the sports side.
That's awesome. So I know that we were just talking a little bit before about collaboration and now not just finding here some hotels for you to have your space. So when associations sort of begin exploring Asheville as a possible host, what does that early engagement typically look like? So can you walk us through how your team work with planners to tailor the experience from venues to local partnerships and sort of everything in between?
Yeah. So, I mean, we mentioned earlier, kind of, we don't start with venues. We don't start with hotels. We really start with goals. So, what are you trying to achieve? What kind of results are you looking for from that meeting? What do you want your attendees to feel, to learn, to remember? Events these days have really moved into this kind of experiential, realm. And it's not just get to your meeting, check into your hotel, go to your meeting, get back to your room, go to bed. If that's what you want, sure, we could support that. But if you want something more, if you want something where your ideas and the stories that people tell about the event all come together in the programs that we make, between the types of creative artistic community we offer, from the music and wellness community that we have, we can build something that is more than just the meeting. The event becomes kind of a unique reflection of what the association and the city can put together for you. So do we also help with logistics? Absolutely. We'll find you the right venue that fits the kind of, goals that you're trying to achieve. We'll put you in the right space. We can connect you with, Michelin rated restaurants in the area. We can tailor events, around the city for you. We can make sure you're connected to the tour, to the music scene, if that's what you want. There are 70 breweries here in town. So if you're looking for an experience with a brewery, we can make that happen. And so, between that and the artist community and the music, we really help on all fronts to make sure your event goals are met and that the spirit of what you're trying to achieve, comes together.
That's great. And I read that Explore Asheville on your website reports that visitor spending contributes nearly $3 billion to the local economy, which is like an amazing stat. How do association meetings fit into that ecosystem? And how do you help planners understand the broader impact of their events?
Yeah. I mean, look, we talk to planners and we kind of, my entire team, everything revolves around economic impact. We look at both direct spend and broader economic impact for every meeting we bring to town. You layer in kind of the events, the conferences, the meetings, the sports, all of the areas that my team covers. You layer that in, And by the way, we focus kind of those events around shoulder times where hotels, kind of don't have the tourist volume that they want. You then blend that in with an entire team here at Explore Asheville that's focused on the leisure segment. And it's a fantastic team focused on dedicating, kind of their time to driving tourism. You blend all that together and try to figure out how to have the largest economic impact and direct spend throughout the city. And we talk in those terms with our event planners because we want them to understand when you bring a meeting here, it matters. Meetings matter here. It is just meetings in Asheville are more than room nights. And by the way, we haven't talked about Hurricane Helene, but in these times, every dollar of economic impact really matters in terms of accelerating our community and bringing events, that have lasting impact on the economy. Think about what meetings bring. They bring restaurant spend, they bring gifts, they bring hotel room nights. We also encourage people to come early, stay late, go out on a rafting tour. All of that is economic impact, for our neighbors and our partners here in the area. And so we work with our planners, kind of in that language and help them understand that. Yes, we also have to meet their goals and make sure they're meeting, attendees walk away with that great energy of what they're trying to achieve. But we do think much more broadly than just heads in beds or room nights. We really do think, across the spectrum of what Asheville needs.
And I think that works both ways because I think, associations and association planners are trying every day to be mindful of where they're going and who they're working with, as well as obviously their members and their staff. Because it's not, otherwise you could go to fly somewhere and stay in a hotel airport and never leave. And
That's right.
I know that there are meetings like that, but I do think that the way we're going, and certainly the way the next generation thinks about, well, pretty much everything, it's a little bit more meaningful, your whole experience, not just the work. So I feel like that really encapsulates like exactly where we should be going. And it's nice to find out that we are actually going there. So you mentioned the hurricane, and I feel like, there could be people listening that the very first time they even thought about Asheville was because of the hurricane, because it was on the national news and it was devastated. So can you share how the city has really recovered and what association should know about Asheville's like current readiness to host major events?
Yep. Look, Helene was devastating to the area. I was here during that period. It was tough on the family, tough on the kids, tough on the community. And so it took time to rebuild, and tourism and meetings have been part of our rebuilding plan. But look, this is why I decided to take the role, was I saw community come together in a way that I just have never seen anything, happen before. Community leaders, the Economic Development Coalition, Vic and her team. I was not here at Explore Asheville, the city, the mayor, the governor. Everyone came together to really figure out, what is our plan. And what's interesting is, like, you kind of had to get through the initial shock and awe of what had happened. Right. But then everything really turned to, how do we rebuild and maybe rebuild differently? How do we rebuild in a way that has long economic impact for our neighbors, for the housing in the area, for just how we look at Asheville as an area that's attractive for not just tourism, but for overall economic development, bringing in new life science businesses, new manufacturing businesses. The recovery comes with investment, which means we can strengthen our infrastructure. And so flood mitigation and renovated public places. I was over at a park the other day that just, all of a sudden looks spectacular, which means we can bring new sporting events to that area. So, rebuilding smarter, more sustainably, with kind of deeper community pride. Everywhere I go, people really feel pride in the recovery.
That's great.
And so, yeah, and so it's a great story. And Are we open for business? Man, we are open and ready. We are thriving here. Group business is up just dramatically. So
Good.
the evidence shows it. It's spectacular outside right now. The leaves are still popping. We're sort of holding on to a late leaf peeping season. It's beautiful right now, other than just a little bit of snow on a cold day.
I'm
But
jealous.
yeah, I mean, associations are part of our comeback
Yeah.
story. We're a resilient place that's thriving, and so it's kind of cool. We're like this community is more unified than ever. We don't take visitors for granted. We welcome them as part of that recovery process, and so it's been really cool. And so yeah, we're ready. As the PGA Tour kind of showed, working with the Biltmore and Explore Asheville, we're ready to host just about anything. So come on down.
I think that's great. And you mentioned, sustainability. So talk to me about how you approach sustainability, inclusivity, and like just the destination in your work with these meetings market.
Yeah, look, sustainability is one of our strategic imperatives. So we don't just have it as kind of a side thing that we think about every now and then. Delivering balanced and sustainable growth is kind of one of our pillars. Encouraging safe and responsible travel, engaging and inviting more diverse audiences, promoting and supporting Asheville's creative spirit. All of those are things that are core to our values and that we think about and work on every day. Look, balanced economic, cultural and environmental sustainability through that framework is how we build events and tourism here. We invest in projects that serve both visitors and residents, like I mentioned, the restored sports complexes. That's just not for bringing new sporting events in. That's for my son's flag football game this weekend, which, by the way, they won. So super fun to have a venue that we can go to, and the neighbors here, our communities can use these facilities. Local suppliers and great food and great food trucks all come together as a part of that. So associations increasingly, from what I've seen, they want values aligned, and Asheville just naturally shines when you're trying to align your values of what you're trying to do as an association together with a location and a place that really is thinking about that. We're committed to responsible growth and authentic connection. And so if that's what your association is looking for, Asheville has the right mindset around that.
That's great. So I can't believe it's going to be 2026 because this year I feel like has flown by. But what trends or innovations are kind of reshaping destinations like Asheville with associations? Are there new models or tools that you're looking forward to?
Well, I certainly am. I'll tell you that. I mean, as a new executive with kind of a travel technology background and a passion for innovation and building businesses, this DMO, recruiting me to come on is really committed to taking that next step for how do you transform the data behind everything that we do into the stories that make Asheville such a great place. So really looking at the data, personalizing our marketing further, tying in our purpose and our storytelling into our marketing, building in automation through tools. And one of the things I've learned, look, at GBTA, we had this too, and maybe it's something I just had to relearn, but event planning is a relationship business, right? My team here, the team here have built long-term relationships. So building technology that allows them to scale that one-to-one personalization and take their relationships to the next level using new technologies, whether that's AI or marketing automation, is just, really powerful tools combined with really powerful relationships. So look, me, I'm a data guy. Data is going to guide my strategy. I'm going to bring in storytelling as a part of that. But really for us, the future in those meetings is tying in Asheville's strength and new tools to bring it all together to make everyone's meeting here just all that more powerful.
So that's awesome. As we wrap this up,
Yeah.
For the planners or the comms pros listening right now who are making the decision about future locations, what's one thing you wish every association professional understood about working with a DMO like Explore Asheville?
Yeah, look, I mean, for us, I guess with all DMOs, look, I would involve the DMO really early in the process. We can multiply your impact from day one. There are just things we can help you with that if you try to do it on your own, you won't be as successful. And by the way, that can include incentive funding, to bring your meeting here. If we think there's a strong economic value, that incentive fund can include other economic incentives, for your meeting. We're not just lead responders. We're strategic partners in helping you shape the outcome of your meeting. We're going to connect you with the hotels and the venues and the local leaders. We can even bring local leaders into your meetings, right? We hold, what we refer to as kind of impact events where we can bring in leaders to talk about what Asheville has to offer, and how that ties to your association and your event. Look, we can tailor your attendee experience, design community engagement, like all of that. If you engage your DMO early, you're going to meet your goals better. We're going to bring you a meeting that feels made for Asheville. And look, I think it's impossible to replicate that anywhere else, especially if you don't engage your DMO at the level we just talked about.
I think this is so great. And I love just the evolution of it too, because this is not where it was when I started out in my career. So it's really kind of exciting to see where it's grown and to have you at the helm of this. I think this is great. So we conclude every podcast with a rapid fire round. So just so our listeners can get to know you better. So
yeah.
Have you gotten away to anywhere fun lately?
Gotten away to anywhere fun lately? Yes. I took my lovely wife to Vegas not that long ago. The kids were at camp this summer, overnight camp, and we had a free 3 days to do something. And a lot of people said, like, Ed, Vegas, why would you go to Vegas? Like, what's there to do there? Look, if you want a romantic getaway with your partner and you do Vegas the right way, it can be something really special. We stayed in a nice hotel. I'll give the Fontainebleau a little shout out. They have a beautiful spa there. We ate at spectacular restaurants. We saw some shows. We slept in. We went to the pool. You can do Vegas as an adult and as a couple and just make it a magical experience. And yes, did I play some craps? Yes, it was super fun and I love it. But yeah, we had a good time and that was fun for us.
That is nice. I think people do have that impression that you can't just sort of have a good time in Vegas without sort of what Vegas has been known for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I definitely agree. Like the restaurants are all fabulous, the hotels,
food's great,
shows. Yeah, totally fun.
And you got to put a time limit on it, right?
Yes.
You're going to expire in Vegas after somewhere between 48 and 72 hours. You're like, I'm done.
Yes.
And that's perfectly okay. Plan your visit around, sort of feeling that way, and you'll have a great time.
Agreed. So what podcasts are you listening to right now that you'd recommend?
Oh my goodness. I'm such a podcast junkie. I don't even know where to start. I will admit readily, I am addicted to just about anything that Professor Scott Galloway puts out.
Okay.
So I love his new Prof G Marketplace with Ed Olson, who's a young upcomer in kind of market insights and analysis. I think Prof G is funny and insightful. I do love Pivot, where he joins up with Kara Swisher,
yes.
Who's just sort of a hard edge against his, kind of, funnier side. And then outside of that, lots of news type podcasts. A bit of a news and political junkie. But if I'm looking if in the mornings, if I'm looking to put on the podcast on the way with the kids, I will switch on Prof G. Just one word of caution. His jokes are crude and dirty. And so, do not listen to them with your 9-year-old if you are not okay with cursing and jokes about things that are not appropriate.
That's some good advice. So what's one place in the U.S. that you have never been but would love to go?
Oh my God, Meghan, I've been everywhere in the U.S. Let me think about where I haven't been. You know what? I've never been to Moab. Everybody tells me I need to get to Moab, and I'm not like, everybody says they go there to go mountain biking. I'm not much of a mountain biker, but that's an area that it looks beautiful, and has some great surrounding areas. So
Nice.
it's on my bucket list. I'd love to go there. And just outside the U.S., I have not been to Whistler. As a skier, I feel like I've let my skiing community down. And so that's on my skiing bucket list, not outside the U.S., but not far.
Nice. Very nice. I've actually been to Whistler in the summer. And it's a fantastic place to be, even when you're not skiing. Like, I just could not get over how beautiful it was. We hiked there several years ago. But okay, so last thing, finish the sentence. When you see me looking at my phone, it probably means I'm...
Oh my goodness. It probably means I'm going to tell you I'm reading the newspaper or the news or the Times, but what I'm really doing is TikToking. And I readily admit I have a TikTok addiction, and I just find it fun and funny and insightful at times. And it's my own algorithm at this point. So it's nothing like what you see. It's only what I see. Recently I was in group 7. I don't know what that means, but I had a blast being in group 7 on TikTok, and like being a part of like little trends like that. Occasionally brings little spots of joy into my life that I wouldn't have if I didn't have TikTok. So that, yes, I'll tell you, I'm reading the news, and I'm probably TikTok.
I love it. And this was great. It was so great to catch up with you. I'm thrilled about your new position. I'm thrilled for our listeners to hear about Asheville, and hopefully to reach out to you guys, because I know you're going to plan them a great meeting.
Please do. Please reach out. Let us know how we can help. And Meghan, I mean, you and Colleen are two of my favorite people. I love your podcast. I'm a regular listener. So I love the work you do, and just keep up the great work. It's great to see you.
Thanks.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights Podcast, previously known as the Association 100 Podcast, is a production of Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words and wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupward.com. That's info@onwardupward.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.